Okay, well, welcome to November 7th, 2023. And my name is Dave, KV0S. And this week, let's see, I've been dealing with computer problems and keeping everything working. My Whisper uh, pickup has been working. So that at least is going, but I've had a few things break, so that's always fun. So next on the list is Nathaniel, W2NAF. Go ahead, Nathaniel.
Thanks a lot, Dave. Let's see. Yep, just trying to keep things going. As Jay asked, what am I doing for a presentation? Well, I'm supposed to be giving two talks this week. I'm supposed to give one talk tomorrow night to the Lackawanna Astronomical Society, and then another talk to to Jay Schwartz's club. And I am trying to revise my presentation. So I started with the base slides that I gave at the Hamvention Tapper dinner, and I'm trying to revise that and restructure it to include early results we have from the different projects. So I have some nice plots from some of the grapes in there, both the digital RF and the FL Digi ones. I have some plots that from Gwen Griffiths and Rob Robinette. Jonathan sent me some plots today. I have some plots from Steve Serwin as well, and from the AM receive experiment. So I'm trying to work all of that in together. I simultaneously need to add some more slides and subtract some at the same time. I still need to get Jonathan Rizzo's slides in there, but I definitely need to remove some of the slides because I'm currently at 78 slides for a 40-minute presentation. So it's just way too many slides, but I'm working on it. Another news, I got the HamSci workshop grant for the NSF that got submitted yesterday. So that's in process. So is the ARDC grant for the HamSci workshop. So that's also in process. We have that coming along. And I think one of the things that's very exciting to me is this Friday, the crane is scheduled to come to the University of Scranton, and they're scheduled to install our 40-foot Roan 45 tower with our Skyhawk finally. So very excited. So things are
Yes,
moving along. So
very good.
we're going to get on the air. It's looking really good there.
Yes.
And one other announcement, I guess. Already have to start thinking about the annual report again, and I think I can ask for one more no cost extension for the Daisy grant. So I think what the plan is, we're going to try to. Hyomin has been working with Dave Witten on the magnetometer paper. It sounds like that paper is coming along nicely. We're going to try to get that out the door. And then we'll try to ask for another no cost extension, try to get this Clementine pulled together. And one last thing, I was running the my magnetometer did stop again in the middle of October. I haven't had a chance to debug it yet, but I think it might still be that problem that we had the last time where maybe that one connector just isn't working right. It oxidizes over time, so I'm going to try disconnecting the magnetometer, putting it back on, see if that fixes itself. I also did I ordered two sets of magnetometers from the Tapper store, so I'll have those on hand here in case I need to replace that. Okay, back to net.
Okay. Next on the list is Michael, AAAK. Go ahead, Michael.
Oh, I
You were
wasn't
on.
muted. Sorry. Greetings to everyone listening. Back to you, Dave.
Okay. Next on the list is Bob in N5 BRG. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, hello everyone. Been staying busy here also, working on still software issues and trying to do a little bit of testing on boards. So back to you, Dave.
Okay. Next on the list is Dave Witten, KD0EAG. Dave, comments?
Hello. Yes, I've had a kind of a tumultuous week and had a lot of family stuff, so I haven't been able to accomplish too much this week. So I have really very little to say. Thank you, though.
Okay. Next on the list is David McGaw in 1HAC. Go ahead, David.
Good evening, everyone. Been pretty busy this week, trying to button up a couple of our projects here, AM Doppler being one of them. We're building out, as I've mentioned. And otherwise trying to stay warm. We're beginning to switch from our summer regime to winter regime here. Interesting geomagnetic storm going on right now, a little bit unexpected, but hearing some warbles on 10 megahertz WWVs, so might be some interesting traces coming of it. Back to net.
Okay. Next on the list is Franco K4VZ. Go ahead, Franco.
Good evening, everyone. Software-wise, this week I've been refactoring my GNU radio module for the fast convolution filter bank, so still working on that and doing some work on that. And also, since I saw that both Rob and Phil are here, there was this email from Clint Turner a few days ago where he says he has problem with his RX-888 going full scale, so maybe we can discuss it in the second part of the meeting. Back to you, Dave.
Okay, very good. Next on the list is Joe W7LUX. Go ahead, Joe.
Good evening, all. Speaking of a storm, got a couple of slides here. I'm going to share the screen. And the top one is on the 5th. Normally, the daytime trace looks like this. Look at that. It's off the 1 hertz scale. Okay, that's enough. Everybody have a
Okay.
good one.
Very good. And next we have Jonathan KC3EY. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Hi, everybody. It was actually quite busy for me this past weekend. There was some non-VLF related stuff that kind of threw itself in there, so what I was doing, I was preparing some slides for Nathaniel's talk. I included the plots of NAA as well as the plot of the GOES data showing the solar flare that occurred around the same time as the solar eclipse, and also the compressed spectrogram showing the decreased decreased absorption in the spherics. Also last night, last night with the geomagnetic storm, there was a magnetometer in Fife, Scotland that recorded a really nice reading showing the distortion of the interplanetary magnetic field's geometry. A really nice result. I was hoping Nathaniel's I was hoping that Nathaniel's captured it, but it doesn't sound like that. But along with that, there was a dawn chorus event, a short dawn chorus event that was seen. You can see these are 6-second thumbnails of dawn chorus that was captured this morning. Actually, around the time that I was heading into work. Actually, really nice. You can see there's one of them actually has two bands of chorus, which is nice. Both both low and high frequency bands. So it was actually quite a complex. It was actually quite a complex storm, and there is also I can also share the if I could find it, there was a recording. If I could find it, and the recording is shows a really nice, really nice. Whoops, there we go. Share sound. I'm going to play this recording quick. Everybody, turn up your volume for just a moment and put your ear by the speaker. You should be able to hear the dawn chorus. It is very faint. I do apologize. Yep. This is very faint, but it is there. I am going to pull the recording from the system and add some gain to it. But yeah, that was a really nice recording. Sounds really beautiful. That's all I have. Back to the net.
Okay. Next on the net is Michael, AC0G. Go ahead, Michael.
Thanks, Dave. Good evening, everybody. I spent last week in North Carolina, enjoying the last weekend of really full leaf changing and biking and hiking and so on in the Asheville and Brevard area. Got back on the weekend and confirmed that of the 3 RX888s I have, 2 of them are non-functional. One shows up as an LS on LS-USB on my Linux machine, but produces no output. The other only intermittently shows up on LS-USB. When it does, it's non-functional. So I am kind of, I guess I'll offline and query Rob about how he managed to get in contact with somebody to return one of his RX888s, because I'm going to send both of them back and see if I get some satisfaction. I don't know. Otherwise, I'm using a very archaeologically ancient version of Phil's code to do Whisper decoder, and it's been working fine for the past month or so. I suffered a dip in the reports, but it was because my dipole had come halfway disconnected. Still, it was working, but and in fact, I'm surprised at how well it was working, even with only one lead connected. But when I connected it back up, I started getting better results. That's it from here. Back to Nat.
Oh, okay. Next on the list is, wait, oh, there you are, Phil. Phil, K9Q, you moved up. And
Yeah, I'm here. Michael, one question. What sampling rate were you running your 888s at that failed?
It varied. I think by and large, because I got them around the time we were having these earlier discussions about overheating, I've never been running them at 128. I've always been running them at 60 or less, 60
and they
megahertz.
still failed, huh?
Yeah.
That's a bummer. I've been running mine that I got at 60 for months now and haven't had a problem. Although at the moment my antennas are down. A big disruption the last week was having our house tented. Boy, that's a pain in the butt. Fortunately, I don't have to do it very often.
Well, the one RX888 that's is doing Whisper with your software and has been running for months. So it's doing just fine. I've got it propped on top of a USB fan and it's working just fine. And it's
Oh, so
doing
you're
so
running
for months.
several of them at the same time.
I ordered one initially, and the first one I ordered died. I ordered two more. One of them has been working great for the past few months, but the second of the two died. So far I have a 33.3% success rate with
Okay.
RX888s, I'm
All
afraid.
right. So yeah, here all my antennas are down, although amusingly enough, you'll get a kick out of this, everyone. When I had my friend come over to take all my antennas down, Randy got up and said, "Where's the coax on this tri-band stick?" There was no coax. I've been using this antenna for, I don't know, years to record local repeaters. And the coax had fallen out of the connector and it was still working. I mean, I'm still getting all the local repeaters. I hadn't noticed. That's embarrassing.
Yeah.
So anyway, my antennas are all down, although I'm still recording local repeaters. And hopefully I'll get at least my HF antenna up soon. Although in the meantime, I've been having fun with the antennas at KFS and KPH. And it's almost like, why bother putting up your own antenna when you have antennas as good as that? Let's see. Oh, speaking of KQ6RS, Randy, who helped me take my antennas down, his buoy is now on its way out to to its deployment site. Is transmitting Whisper on 20 meters as KQ6RS, and also transmitting those little special call signs with additional telemetry. And KFS and KPH are both hearing it just fine, as is KE7OEI occasionally. When it gets into water, it should become a lot stronger. The antenna will be away from the ship's steel structure, and also have a good ground plane in the ocean. But it's amazing that those antennas can hear that well. So that's about it here. I'm even more behind in mail than I usually am. It always takes me days. As you get older, it seems to take longer to recover from stuff like this. So I'll get to my email one of these years. That's it from here.
Okay. By the way, I noticed some comments in your code from John Melton, so I sent him a message and caught up with him. He's an old friend of mine, and hopefully he'll get interested in some of this. He did buy an RX888, so
yeah, I just hope we can keep him from failing.
yes. So next on the list is Rob. AI6VN. Go ahead, Rob. Muted. Muted.
Now I'm unmuted.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So hello, aloha from Maui, where I'll be for a week or so. My ham radio work is centered around the working with Bill's code, and in particular, we've been examining the 888's performance sensitivity, and it appears that Phil added last week counter to see if over ranges occur. The ADC hits its full range, and none of us have been able to get it to hit full range. So there appears to be a gain, RF gain structure problem within the 888 that it can't. I've turned the 888 gain all the way up to 35 dB of RF gain and had it at the A to D, and still never got an overload event.
Rob, when you did that, what was the average level in dBFS?
10 dBFS, minus 10.
Okay, 10, you might start to see some overranges since it's Gaussian.
Yeah, I could. I normally it's running if I at 20 dB of gain, it tends to run at minus 15 dBFS. So adding 15 dB of RF gain only gained 5 dB of average. So it doesn't make sense. And
well, actually, it would make sense if there's some compression going on or clipping going on before it gets the A to D. That would explain both of these things, wouldn't it? Is that what you think is happening?
Yes. I think it is. I think that is what is happening. And so the current state is that the 888 works almost as well as the Kiwi, and when they're given the same signals, but not quite as well. And I think that we're going to, at some point, try to add some additional gain in front of the 888, low noise gain ahead of it, in the hopes of being able to actually improve the noise figure. Because
all right, I saw somebody suggest taking a histogram. I think that was Franco. Did somebody do that?
Franco has
Yeah,
a
Clint
utility
did.
program. Yeah, and Clint did that. And
Yeah, Clint did, and we can discuss it at the end after the full roll call then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So anyway, that's one thing. The other thing that to me is a big deal, but maybe it isn't to anybody else, but Ryan Tolboom at New Jersey Institute of Technology published a patch to the WSJTX Whisper decoding utility that allows it to output the same kind of spectral spreading information that we get from the JT9 decoder used to decode FST4W. So that means potentially that we could use whisper transmissions to make the kind of Doppler shift measurements that we've been making heretofore exclusively from 4W transmissions. Now, there's, of course, a lot of work to be done. I need to talk to Ryan about this because if the whisper decoding involves drift compensation, that drift compensation will probably pollute any spreading information. So I don't know that to be a fact, but basically, I think if you're going to do this, we're going to have to make sure that the decoder disables drift compensation in decoding whisper packets. And of course, the other issue is, well, there's 3,000 whisper beacons and maybe 20 4W beacons. We know all the 4W beacons, I think almost all of them, who they are and what they're running, and that they're all GPS-DO. The Whisper 2 beacons, probably 95% of them are probably not GPS disciplined, and they're probably wandering all over the place, and so the spreading information will be worthless. We'll see if it's useful. I think it's potentially it's really useful, if only that it would make it easier for someone to deploy something like the Beacon Blaster 6 or 8 now, here they're coming, because if someone were to start transmitting using a GPS disciplined oscillator, then they have many more people recording their spots. And to the extent that beaconers are concerned about how many people are listening to them, if you want to be on the top beacons list, then you probably don't want to be a 4W transmitter. So that would remove having the ability to decode whisper spots and gain the same kind of Doppler shift information from them. Might be remove a barrier to wider deployment of beacons that are GPS disciplined. Yeah, so that's anyway, that's my hope. And potentially, we could take a look at someone who could go through the database and say, take a GPS disciplined receiver that is listening on the bands, find the beacons that are line of sight, and he could tell whether the whisper beacon was disciplined because you could see low spreading. So as a way to maybe curate the good beacons out of the 3,000 beacons that are out there. I think there's an opportunity, hope that beacons will become better disciplined. I know that Hans, is it Hank or Hans, who runs Zach Tech, has a new beacon transmitter that includes GPS disciplining, not just using the beacon to set the time, or GPS to set the time, but actually to be GPS disciplined. I don't know the quality or the availability of that, but his beacons are widely used. And so I find that encouraging as well, is that we could end up with many more Whisper 2 beacons that would provide us with useful Doppler information from many more parts of the world without us doing anything. just having Ryan's decoding software. So I need a little help. I think, Phil, you've been looking, maybe you can help me get that Ryan's code compiled, and so I can put it into Whisper Daemon, and start to report spreading information for the Whisper beacons. So
Okay, I just
that's
pulled
my-
it down. It compiled. So
That's great, but it's on the KFS TC1 machine. Is that where you did it?
no, I just pulled it down to my own machine and applied the
Oh,
package
okay.
work. I have my own fork of WSGTX and I'm putting it in there.
Okay. Well, good. Well, if you got to give me anything you want to do. The other thing I suggested, I think Nathaniel heard this from me, is that it seems to me that one could derive from a whisper signal. If one knows, once one decodes the signal, one could subtract out the modulation. And given that there's no drift compensation, okay, that you could subtract it out and in effect get a CW carrier of what the transmitter was transmitting, and look at the Doppler shift in the same way that the grape looks at the Doppler shift from the WWV carrier. Does that make sense? We can talk about it later.
Yeah.
If that doesn't.
Let's let Tom McDermott in 5EG is the last on the list. Go ahead, Tom.
Good evening, everyone. Well, I just got the thermal material from DigiKey. Took quite a while to get delivery. I've limited my runtime on my RX888 to probably 30 minutes.
Can I really hear you, Tom?
Tom, you're way away from your microphone.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that
There
better?
we go.
Yes.
Now the
I
mic's
keep
better.
forgetting I've got a boom mic on it on a thing, but I swing it out of the way. I've got
That's
the
better.
thermal material from DigiKey. I've kept the runtime on my RX888 very low, and I'm going to go make the thermal mod to it tomorrow and then turn it on. So let's keep our fingers crossed that that's working.
Can
And I may-
can you send out the type of the exact model of that stuff you got? The type of thermal
Yeah, hang
pad?
on, let me get it.
I bought the $8 pad, 100
Yeah, this was
millimeter by 100 millimeter pad from Amazon.
this was the
That's much better.
32. This was the $32 version, and plus shipping.
I think that's a per square millimeter. I think it's the same price because what I got from Amazon is much smaller than that.
Is
Yeah.
that stuff double sticky or single sticky?
I haven't opened the package yet. I think it's single sticky.
Okay, because I
And
think
it's-
that's what we want, because the
Yeah.
other side, the non-sticky side is metallic and it should slide right into the case.
Yeah, this is about 5 millimeters thick, and I
That's
haven't
right.
unsealed the package yet. But my intention is to try to bring up some of the different HF applications on the RX888, and then do a video on how to bring up each of those different applications. And to do that, if I run into any bugs, I might perhaps request just a little bit of help to get going. I just want to demo some of them so that folks who watch this, will have something they could view to see how to bring it up and get it going. So that's about
Yes.
it.
And nice job on the first one, Tom.
Thanks. I made some improvements on the video settings. And I think the fuzziness of the first couple of videos will be cleared up a little bit. That's my hope. There was some, I have a monitor who's scaling, it gets double scaled going down to HD video. And I think that's the source of some of the weird video problems.
Yeah.
So other than that, last week was spent learning NDI, which is
Yeah.
which is like HDMI and SDI, but over a network. So
Yes.
that was an interesting story. Back to the net.
Okay, well, I think I've called on everybody. Has anybody not had a chance to make a comment to the list? Well, then we're open for general discussion.
I have a couple of things I wanted to mention. One is, you made me think of earlier. I'm doing these Meteor cameras. I got a couple of Meteor cameras, and I watched the Global Meteor Network. And these guys have cameras watching the sky all over the place. And during these storms that happened, they noticed the aurora pick up, and they're getting recordings of that coordinated with or timed with their camera, which is kind of an interesting, another interesting data point, I guess, for indications of storms or geomagnetic storms. And the other thing is, you guys that have these RX 888s that are crapping out, if I could get my hands on one of those, I'd like to see if I could debug it and figure out what happened to it and possibly repair it. If I could do
Maybe
that.
Michael could send you one of his.
Well, if he can get his money back, he probably ought to pursue that. But Rod had one or two earlier. I don't know if he still got them, but if you want me to try to repair it for you, I might be able to do it and send it back to you.
Well, maybe Rob can give me some advice about how he managed to get a return going. But
Yeah,
I've got two broken ones, so I can send you one.
Well, I thought about having Glenn Elmore volunteered to try to repair mine, and I decided not to do it. The vendor I bought it from, Open something SDR in Beijing, I contacted them I bought mine through them from AliExpress, and I contacted them, and they were it took them a little while. They said they had to talk to the manufacturer, and they got back to me in 2 or 3 days and said, well, you can send it back. Now, sending it back is the expensive part. It costs almost $50 to mail to Beijing. But in your case, that would be partitioned between two of them. And sure enough, I mean, I got my credit card from them for the $150 a few weeks later. So that vendor I found to be perfectly, as responsive as they could be, given that they're just really a reseller. They know nothing about the parts. So I don't know.
Dave Witten said that he saw on a list the original manufacturer fellow. I forgot what his name is. He said that if it's not working, eventually he would honor it. I don't know if Dave's still there or not, but
no, I don't know that the Mark IIs are made by the original guy though.
Do you remember that, Dave Witten?
Well, that's not quite right, but I do. It's the list is the next gen SDR list that Franco knows well and others. That comment was made quite a while back. Somewhere on that list, he says something like that. But that's the the RX 888, one of the two guys I think that made those. But I can't quote it precisely at all. It's been a while since I looked at that. But yeah, it seems like that does seem like he said something to that effect.
Well, there's some mileage in just shipping the parts back to them. If enough are coming back, they maybe do something about it.
Well, Bob, if you, I'll see if I bought mine from, I think I just looked it up. What's it called? Ella Kits or Parts. I don't know who they are. They came in a fairly timely fashion, but if I don't get any joy in getting some response from their support staff, why don't you just shoot me your shipping information, and I can send one of the units over to you, or even both of them for that matter, because they're just bricks to me. So
that's fine. I'll send you a note here on the chat privately.
Hey, Rob, take a look at KFS now at the whisper logs.
Okay. I will. By the way, Clint just sent out an email to you and me and a few others about the overload clipping levels thing, and suggesting that he thinks it appears to be a software problem.
Software problem.
Yeah.
Software problem.
Well, guys, you're both. It's the Franco. Yes, it goes to you.
Oh, it
and
just
Phil.
came in. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I
It
just
just came in. Yeah, 12
Yeah,
minutes ago.
I need to. Yeah, I need to read it. Then hold on a
You
second.
need to read it. I just scanned it because I thought it was.
Yeah. I just.
So anyway, you can look at it inside. Let's
Yeah.
see. I was going to. I'm sorry. I was gonna show you how I addressed the fact that the thermal pad that I purchased had sticky tape on both sides. It was adhesive on both sides. So I got let's see. I got some copper foil and put this copper foil on the side, and then I was able to slide that in quite nicely. I didn't put any thermal grease or anything between the copper foil and the case, and I, especially with the fan running across the heatsink, the whole thing runs stone cold. I mean, of course, that's an external heatsink, not the internal one. So that's my. This is. Let's see. There's the mods are so easy to them. It's quite easy to add the external clock. So we just need a low cost external clock, and I think John Eckerman is working on providing that for us. So anyway, that's my picture of thermal.
I'm reading Clint's email now. I mean, it's not a software problem on my end. I mean, I thought for a second I was counting the samples wrong. No, basically, I think he's confirming what I suspected, which is that the analog gain amplifier into this thing is clipping before it ever gets to full range.
He doesn't believe that's the case, given what he saw. He saw 6 volts of differential on the analog gain. That's what I read.
Well, there are settings for the range, the input range of that A to D. I think he's suggesting those. I'm still reading the message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, you need to read it. Let's see.
Yeah.
Your version of Whisper D is on TC.
It's running now. It's running now on KFS. Well, actually, KFS is the one that's is not running your stuff, is it?
No, I'm not running, but you're running your own decoder there.
That's right. I'm running my own decoder. It's going into my own logs under /recordings.
Yes,
Whisper.
I actually wrote a little utility program. It was interesting. Phil is decoding FT8 alongside of Whisper in his own decoding and just putting it into a log file. So it gave me the opportunity to compare the number of spots from FT8 versus Whisper on the same antenna. And, there's something like KFS gets like 40,000 Whisper spots a day. And there's something like 500,000 FT8s. Now,
oh God, I mean, it's fun to watch. It just goes, each 15 seconds, it just goes scrolling off the screen. It won't fit on one screen.
Yeah, about every 15 seconds, you get 150 spots. Some of them aren't very meaningful. And I noticed that your decoder doesn't seem to, there seems to be call signs that have hashes in them. Those hashed call signs are not printed out. So you don't really know who those spots are from.
Right. And I think the way this works is it has to hear the station directly in order to get its hash. Otherwise, if somebody's calling that station, you don't hear the station, you don't know what that hash means.
Yeah. Well, I thought the hash was part of a dialogue, and I guess you have to hear both sides.
It's just a way for it to abbreviate stations that it's talking to by not having to send a call sign. That's all. Yeah.
Well, the Whisper protocol has the same kind of mechanism in place. That if you specify in transmitting Whisper packets as a beaconer, if you specify a 6-character maidenhead, or your call sign has a slash in it even. It can be a short with a slash.
Mhm.
Your Whisper will then partition its transmission to two Whisper packets in adjacent Whisper cycles. The first of which, of course, contains the 4-character maidenhead, and then the second one has a hash value of the call sign and puts in the full 6-character maidenhead.
Right.
So that's what's called a Type 3 Whisper packet, and I could.
It's not
go
easy
into
when
the
you
weeds
only
on
have
this.
50 bits to work with, you know.
Yeah, well, they increased that's one of the sources of false decodes in the Whisper world, is that the hash value is, I think it's only a 16-bit hash in Whisper 2. And as a result, there's a fairly reasonable, 1 or 2% chance of a false decode that the hash will match. There'll be a hash collision. So in
You can
the
you can know what
FT4,
that is, right? I mean, if it's you said 16 bits, then if you have a population of 256 stations, there's about a 50% chance of having a collision between any two of them.
yeah.
That's the old birthday
So-
paradox problem.
Yeah. Well, that's certainly what happens with Whisper 2 when you do that. So, there's really no reason to send Whisper 3s, except that people like Paul who have beacon blasters at multiple locations are transmitting with the same call sign. They can't put in a slash or they end up with a. So Paul, this is Paul Elliott, KB6CXC, has a beacon blaster in Occidental California, Northern California, and a similar one running up in San Juan Islands near Seattle. Well, he has to use the same transmit call sign. They differentiate between them by the basis of the maidenhead. But it would make more sense if he could put in /8 or whatever /0. But if he did that, then he wouldn't be able to generate a valid Whisper packet with his code. I mean, the Whisper, the WSJTX generates it, but just before we go, Phil, which machine you're doing this on? KFS TC1? Is that the machine where you're doing this?
I think that's the one. Yeah, it's the one you gave me, and it's running. TC1.
Okay,
Yeah,
you're good. Okay.
I haven't done anything in
I'll go look at it.
KPH. I've been having trouble getting in, and I've yet to install my stuff there. But it looks like I have.
You should be able to get in now with the.
Yeah. Okay.
No, you can't.
No, I have been off and on. That's my point.
Okay. Well, I messed you up over the weekend, but I turned on a firewall rule that turned off a firewall rule I shouldn't have.
Well, you really want to see Whisper push beyond its limits. See what they're doing for APRS.
Yeah.
I'm looking right now at the track on APRS.F5, which is derived from Whisper for KQ6RS-12. I can put a link to it in the chat here. Click on that. That's tracing the research vessel Sally Ride on its way out to the deployment point. And those are all derived from its 20-meter Whisper beacon. And you can see, in fact, the raw messages. He uses the oddball call signs that begin with Q. And he also encodes water temperature, battery voltage. What else? Those are the main things. Don't need to encode altitude.
So, Phil, do you know the German polar ship has also been beaconing sequences?
Yes. Well, they're back somewhere. Last I looked, near the Mediterranean, but when they were near the North Pole, it was really a lot of fun going on whispernet.org, and they gave an excellent illustration of the limitations of Mercator map projections.
Yes.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't scroll up and see exactly where they were. The line just went off the top of the map.
Right now, they're off of the west coast of Africa, south of the Canary Islands.
Yeah. One thing I wondered about is RR73 is actually a valid grid square.
Oh.
In FT8 anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. it's near the pole. So
Yeah.
The that ship is carrying a Beacon Blaster 6. It's going to be
oh,
installed.
is that what it is?
down
Because it
at
has
the-
been transmitting on multiple bands.
Hey. Oh, perhaps I don't think so. I don't think I don't think they've turned on the Beacon Blaster. It's a band scanner. It's on. It's been on there
Okay.
for a couple of years.
Yeah.
They have a Beacon Blaster which Professor Michael Harjay will go down and install. So there will be a simultaneous multi-band whisper transmitter from a DP0 sometime
Oh.
in January.
Oh,
Oh,
good.
here's the this is the art research vessel Sally Ride. And when they start diverging, you'll know that we've been dropped off. I think it's supposed to happen about tomorrow. The idea was they do this lawn mowing pattern when they go out and back, and the idea was to drop us off at the farthest extent they got from home. So we don't want to come back. We want to get caught in the current to the west, and we should be coming your way. I mean, we've done 3 buoys in the past. One failed after a week. The other 2 went to battery depletion, but they only made it about halfway to Hawaii. We wanted to go all the way to Hawaii. So this one's solar powered, so maybe it'll make it.
Well, I hope so. I should be. Am I picking it up from my site here, AI6BM?
I don't know. I haven't looked. Take a look, see if you're hearing it. But I mean, physically,
It's
the thing on
KQ6. It's KQ6RS.
right.
I don't know. I'll look.
Yeah.
I don't see. I just looked in your whisper.log file. I don't see spreading numbers. I did the last thing I see there on the column.
It's not in. Oh, it's not there. It's only in all whisper.txt in the subdirectory.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a little confusing, yeah, because the log formats are not the same. I could make them the same.
I thought the water
that's okay.
currents from off of Hawaii go up towards Alaska.
What's that?
Did it one time. I used to dive and I dove off of Hawaii, and they always told me, if you get out too far and the current gets you, you're going to go to Alaska.
Oh, yeah. There's a clockwise gyre, whatever they call it. That it's called it. Well, we'll probably end up in the mid-Pacific garbage patch somewhere around here.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah. Anyway, thought you'd be
So
interested.
these
there are uses
numbers
for whisper.
these numbers, the last column, are in hertz.
I don't know. Take a look. I just applied that patch, and it
okay.
applied and it compiled, and I just dropped it in place. So it's
That's
not
great.
just a
Well,
patch. I mean, he wrote a whole routine to extract this information, to calculate this information.
This is great. Well, I'm going to stick this in as a binary, and presumably I could just run it on any Linux Ubuntu 22, the same kind of OS.
Yes, yeah. The only place I can't
hoping-
is on my laptop, because Port apparently doesn't have a Fortran compiler port. Jeez, and I'm still using Fortran code today. Well, that's Joe Taylor for you. I mean, he's
Joe Taylor, yes.
Yeah, well, he's an old school scientist. Old school
Yes.
scientists write Fortran, right?
Right.
Fortran program I wrote was about 1975 or so.
Yeah. I was still writing them in the 80s.
Well, I stopped as soon as I discovered C. I mean, everything else kind of just went by the
Yep.
wayside.
I tried to talk my boss into switching to C, and he wouldn't do it.
Back in my day,
Well, he said, "You're going to leave, and I can't read it, so I'm going to stick with what I can read."
back in my day, I had to walk 200 feet uphill in the snow just to use a computer with 16K of memory. Not gig, not meg, just K.
Yes.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't uphill both ways, but going downhill in the snow was worse. You're much more likely to slip. But you California kids, you wouldn't know that. When I say that at school, I get a great eye roll. I love it. And I actually went to Google Earth. There really was 200 feet difference between where I lived and Cornell Engineering campus. God, I'm old.
Yeah. Well,
Well, this is fun, Phil. I'm off fiddling. I'm looking to see who's the lowest spreading numbers on Whisper
I
2.
haven't looked at his code, but I can see he does for another Fourier transform in there. I mean, if I were to do it, I would simply look for the AC component, right? I mean, he may be off frequency, but it's the changes that you're looking for.
Yeah. Well, it would be, as I say, it would be, is it possible to deconvolute out and it basically get a carrier, a simulated carrier?
Well, if he's
from
off
these whisper
frequency,
signals?
how would you know, right? I mean, how would you tell that being off frequency from, the Doppler shift being a constant component?
I'm suggesting that you could get rid of the modulation component since you know the format of the tone shifts for the packet. So you know
I'm not talking about
frequency.
that. Of course, he can do that. But what happens if he's got a drift in his oscillator?
Well, that's a problem. You don't get.
Oh, yeah, right.
That means then it doesn't. Then it's not a useful signal. It's not useful for Doppler measurements if there's a drift in the signal.
Right.
So the question is, how would you determine who that has the decoder compensated for drift, and all we're seeing is the spread away from the drift, or are we actually?
Wait a minute, I'm confused. You're talking about the data we're now logging, right?
Yes. What is that?
Well, that's on a GPS controlled receiver. So the only drift that you see is going to be due to the transmitter or the ionosphere.
I know. The question is, yes, correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So and you can't tell them apart.
So how do you differentiate between the two? I see.
Can't.
That's 90. Okay.
And unless you want to compare several stations that are close to each other and compare them with each other.
Well, let's see what I'm going to look for. Paul is transmitting Whisper 2 using his Beacon Blaster 6. He has a version of the Beacon Blaster firmware that transmits Whisper 2 packets. So that is GPS disciplined.
Okay.
And
somebody else who's physically near him who's transmitting on the same band, you could use them as a comparison.
Yes, or I could look for KPH, pick him up at line of sight. But
if you can get somebody local, then yeah.
Well, that was one of my thoughts. Is that if since we know the maidenhead of the transmitter and we know the maidenhead of our GPS disciplined receive sites, the receive sites can say, look for stations that are line of sight to them or near, and then those stations could determine whether that transmitter is well disciplined. Only if it's well disciplined, then that transmit site becomes a candidate to look for Doppler shift at remote receive sites where the ionosphere is involved in the transmission.
Right.
You see my idea? That's
yeah. I understand.
Okay, but apparently he isn't transmitting right now because I don't see in that all whisper, I don't see any of your lines that include the spreadsheet, so spreading values. So he must not be on air right now, or it's not making it to KFS for some reason.
So Rob, did you have some separate communication with the ZACTech fellow? His transmitters have a GPS antenna with them, but I'm not sure that they're doing an internal discipline.
They're not.
Okay.
No, the current product, the legacy product that is the one that's still for sale, it only uses GPS to determine the time, to determine the start time of and the maidenhead location of the transmit site. That's all it does. It doesn't use it for disciplining. But a new generation of the ZACTech product does use the GPS for discipline.
But it's not for sale yet. It's not even listed on the website as far as I can see.
I heard it through a posting. There is a group called the Whisper Beacon Project, and to which I subscribe. And that project has deployed those ZACTech transmitters around at 40 some sites around the world. And so I subscribe to that list. It's a system that was organized by a Swiss ham Roland, who actually funded the purchase and distribution of these Zactecs. So he has a set of these around the world, but in sight. So they're actually, it's I think, a candidate network for beacon blasters that we could. And Roland, I spoke to him in June, said that he was very open to upgrading his network by sending out new transmitters. And all of his receive sites have, or his transmit sites have multi-band antennas, typically trap verticals, 80 through 10 meters. So these would be excellent sites to produce kind of little mini or micro WWVs at sites around the world. So that's a project that I'd like to get to. Hans it's a scanning, as I believe, I'm certain from looking at the printed circuit board. It's like his existing product. It does band scanning, and I think the results we got from the Eclipse, even before and after the Eclipse, the ability to transmit simultaneously from multiple bands from one location it adds significant amount of information about the ionospheric conditions. Gwen has published a paper that you guys could see on our Whisper Demon website, a series of studies, short studies, 5 or 6 of them, looking at the results that we got from these multi-band transmitters and, of course, multi-band receivers. One of the, I thought, most interesting insights was that he was looking at the difference in measured ionospheric motion, the velocity of motion, when he measured the velocity at 7 megahertz and 10 megahertz, when there was simultaneous propagation on both bands. And he was seeing a slight but significant difference, like 30 meters per second versus 40 meters per second at the higher band, which suggested, I forget, or the other way around, which suggested that he was actually measuring the velocity at different depths of the ionospheric layer. So it suggests that being able to transmit and receive multiple bands simultaneously might give us the opportunity to probe the ionospheric conditions in ways that we can't when we're just doing band scanning kind of transmissions. So that's one of the directions that I think I believe could gain us new insights into the radio science that interests me the most of all this. So multi-band transmitters, simultaneous multi-band transmitters. Paul is working on a successor to his Beacon Blacker 6, which will be an 8-channel that will be completely assembled by JLPCB. So it'll be much lower cost and will be manufacturable in volume. So that's that to me would be a more interesting product to deploy at these 40 Whisper Beacon sites, because I think we would get more information, much more information about the ionospheric conditions with such a transmitter. So anyway, that's but that's I don't see his Whisper 2 transmissions, Paul's Whisper 2 transmissions coming through. So I can't tell you that it's that I haven't been able to see the motion values. But we should do it up at, you should install your software up at KFS, Phil, because he's line of sight to KPH, I'm sorry, KPH, okay. Because he's line of sight to Paul's transmit site, not Occidental. So what else? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hijack the discussion here. So.
Kimberly wants to go eat.
Yeah. Well, thank you for compiling that, Phil. I appreciate that.
Sure. Well, anybody can file something. It's writing and testing.
I couldn't. I tried. I tried downloading
Really?
the source toolbar, and then I ran the instructions to do a CMake, and I ended up getting some error about Fortran being missing on that computer.
Well, yeah,
I didn't know what to do.
I had to install Fortran.
Well, I didn't. I tried. I couldn't. There's some you type, syscontrol, or apt install Fortran 5 tab, and you get a whole list of Fortran packages, Fortran 5 packages. So that left me confused about which one I was supposed to install.
Okay, I'm on KPH now. I just said install Fortran, GNU Fortran.
Yeah.
And it's installing now.
Okay.
Done.
So you're going to just use that decoder as
well, why not? I mean,
that version of that. Yeah, use that version of WhisperD and just output the additional field.
I wonder if he can, the key here when you make one of these patches is to get the upstream maintainers to buy it back. Otherwise, you just end up with this combinatorial explosion of versions and patches.
Yeah.
I'm always hesitant to have somebody else's code for just that reason, unless I know they're going to buy it back.
Yeah, well, I will incorporate it into the Whisper Daemon release structure, so it as a binary.
Oh, you're distributing WhisperD?
I haven't to date. Well, actually, I do already incorporate WhisperD a binary. I extract WhisperD from a known version of WSJTX. I didn't want to be just following along, because at times I found that they do a new release or a new version and it would break it. So Whisper in the installation process includes a specification of the version of JTX and from that the version of WhisperD that it's going to run. So it extracts just the WhisperD from the package, puts it in a private bin directory, the one right underneath the Whisper daemon directory. And that's the version of WhisperD that Whisper daemon executes. And that way, if someone has installed their own version, older or newer version of WSJTX, I don't interfere with it. Whisper daemon doesn't interfere with an existing installation. So I intend to do the same thing with your code. It's your version of that.
I do wish that, WSJTX is getting awfully big. I wish they would break it up.
Yeah. So
make it a little more,
Yeah, I had to,
it's
okay,
fine.
well, let me go over and did you start it up again? Is it?
Well, it just dropped in the user local bin, so it automatically gets invoked by my daemon.
It's automatic. Okay, so it'll be invoked. Well, let me be sure that Paul is transmitting on. I have to make sure his transmitter is operational. I think he was driving up to Friday Harbor.
This file in WhisperD, fano.c, copyright 1994, Phil Carn KA9Q. God, it's been that long. It's almost 30-year-old code. Minor modifications by Joe Taylor. I don't know what he did. Oh, we selected the code. I had several in here you could select from, and he picked one. God, it's been a long time since I looked at this code.
Let's see. TX call WB6CXC, and let's look for Whisper2 packets received by anybody. Nothing. He isn't transmitting right now for some reason. So we're not going to get any of his transmissions. Okay. I'll have to ask him what's going on. I'm looking back to see. I'm looking at the last week. At some point, he was telling me, there it is. Okay. He's been transmitting. He stopped transmitting on the 5th. was the last time he was transmitting. Whisper 2. Okay, well, I'll send him a note, say we need him to turn his Whisper 2 transmitter back on, so we have a known one. Okay, well, thank you. You've done your part, Bill. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Kimberly wants to go eat, so
Okay,
see y'all later.
take care, Phil. That's it. Anyway, Nathaniel, I had Phil preempted that project I had suggested, a student project. They're still the one to get the synthesize a CW carrier from a whisper signal, and that would be something else to do.
That sounds good. I'll keep that on the list.
Okay.
Yeah. That does sound like a good project.
I think it would be fascinating to see how closely we could, we have a whisper transmitter that's GPS disciplined from Glen, right near Boulder. So you could correlate the results of such a, synthesized CW carrier of Glen's transmissions against those grape records for WWV. And they're, the transmitters like 30 kilometers from each other. So if you could do a comparison, and that would be a way to validate whether this is a technique that could be more widely used to use the 3,000, some probably small subset of the 3,000 whisper transmitters, beacons around the world as mini WWVs.
Yeah, that's really good.
And it's a receive only thing. You don't have to ask people. Well, of course, we'd shame those people who had
who aren't disciplined, right?
Who have very wobbly transmitters. We could put them on we actually did that. Phil VK7JJ put up in fact, I think he still has a wall of shame web page of people who send out duplicate spots, tried to do duplicate spots registered so that people would run multiple copies of JTX on multiple antennas, and then they just each one would output it. Well, of course, they'd all there'd be an overlap. There'd be a union of signals that were received by all of these three, and all three of them were uploading, and they until maybe 6 months ago, WhisperNet would record all of them, and so you'd have these multiple entries. About, I don't know, 6 months or a year ago, WhisperNet implemented a deduplication algorithm, which for a while dramatically slowed its ingest of packets. I think they've enhanced it eventually, but so that now WhisperNet will throw them away. So it's pretty hard to get a duplicate into WhisperNet now. You don't see many duplicates, although there's probably still lots of people uploading duplicates. But WhisperNet is throwing away the duplicates. But when that happens, of course, it doesn't look for the best SNR. It just saves the first one that arrived from a site. Whereas WhisperDemon, when you run it, it actually does well, if it's configured to do so, will receive and find the best SNR among the group of receive antennas and receivers, and only upload the best of them to WhisperNet. So, but anyway, that's I wander off on another subject. So
that makes sense.
Anyway, Franco, I think that Clint's. I really appreciate you working with Clint on this 888, overload and validation stuff, because I can't get my 888s to work quite as well as the Kiwis. Not if they both are given the same RF. I mean, it's not a big difference, but it appears that the difference that I see appears to be at lower signal levels. So that suggests that the dynamic range of the 888 is not much better than that of the Kiwi, and that would suggest it would be due to the noise figure of that VGA used in the 888. So I hope that that experience with the 888 informs Dave and others in the design of the Clementine, that we make sure that we have a RF path that isn't limiting us the performance. I hope that the 888 we can fix it by adding an LNA ahead of the 888, and let add another 10 dB of gain.
Yeah, Rob, I'm starting to
I
feel the lag for the daylight saving time. It's like feels like 11
okay.
years. So
It's okay.
I
Hey, it's still sunlight here for me, so
I know that's why.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
starting.
Anyway, thank you for working on it. That was mostly.
Yeah, I'll reply back to him and then we'll go from there. Good night, everyone.
Okay.
Good night.
Great.
Yeah, I'm starting to
good
fade
night.
too.
Take care.
But
Oh,
Franco,
that's
are
that's
you?
Good.
Yeah.
Oh, he's gone.
All right.
Good.
Jonathan, I think if you're still there, I think I know enough about your slides to be able to use them in the talk tomorrow. So we'll cover that later.
I put some description in there that you could read, that pretty much tells the story in the simplest way. So that should take care of everything, but I do plan on being there. So if you need any help, I'll jump in.
That sounds great. Yeah, my biggest thing is going to be just figuring out how to trim things down to, 45 minutes to certainly no more than an hour. So that's gonna be the biggest trick.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, I will do it. Let me go. I'm gonna say good night to everybody.
Good
All right,
night.
get some sleep.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. 73.
73.